Welcome back to Life Chats for the Creative Woman with Leslie and Lindsey. We're so excited that you're here. So we talked a little bit last time about Leslie's story.
Last episode was actually our OG story.
Our OG friend story.
As my son calls it. If you don't know what that is, because I had to ask, it's like the origin story. So in other words, how we met, why we're here, and then Lindsey wanted to know about kind of more of my story, so I kind of tried to nutshell that.
And I didn't let her.
And yeah, I went on a little bit. That's true. And so now we're in part 2, where Lindsey's going to share some about her story.
Yeah, and I'm super excited because the thing that I think we noticed as we were talking through it was, even though we both had similar goals, we both wanted to perform and we loved singing, and that was such a part of who we were, and part of what we wanted our life to look like is to be in the arts and the entertainment space and to sing and use our voice and make music. Our stories as women still looked really different. But I know in my experience working with clients, especially my female clients, is that there's a lot of really weird messaging around what your life needs to look like, when it is an acceptable time to have children, if you can have children, if you want to be a performer.
If you even want to.
If you want to, if you should or should not, when. And so it was interesting because you were like, I wasn't sure I did ever want kids, and then you ended up having one.
It was really at the last minute.
Yeah, it was the 11th hour.
I was like, I was coerced by my husband lovingly because he was like, I don't want to miss out. I don't want to turn around when I'm 50 odd years old and go, man, we missed out on that.
Yeah.
And in a very sober moment, he said to me, do you?
Yeah.
Do you want to look back and have missed out on that? And I couldn't answer yes or no. Really? I was just like, it just was like one of those arrows, those like truth arrows, right?
Yeah.
And I was just like, I guess I can't say that I do want to miss out on that.
Right.
And so there we go.
And
Evan was
Enter Evan.
Evan was born literally like less than a year later.
Which is kind of similar to my story, but the difference was that for me growing up, like I always knew that I wanted to be a performer and work in the entertainment industry, and I also equally knew that I wanted to be a mom. And the two were there was never one that I wanted more than the other. I just always assumed that was what my life was going to be. And this is a huge moment of like vulnerability, but I, growing up, thought like my kids' births would be profiled on the cover of People one day.
I love that.
That's real talk. That's really good real talk. And if I'm blushing right now, like, you know why? Because it's like those inner like fantasies that we don't tell anybody about, and here I am like telling the world. And they seem absolutely ridiculous, but at the same time, like, you're a kid, and that was my context, right? Because I had this idea that in order to be a successful entertainer or to be a successful performer or work in the entertainment industry and also be a parent, I needed to be at a certain level of fame. Basically was what it was. It wasn't, I didn't even connect success to fame.
Okay.
It was just that like anyone that I knew that was successful as a performer, whether they were acting or dancing or singing, they were famous.
Okay.
I didn't know anybody that was successful and that was doing it independently.
Right.
So my story really starts, I'm from Southern California originally, and I grew up really close to, LA and all of that. And I knew pretty early on that I wanted to act and sing and dance. I grew up in a really religious family where dancing was not a thing, but my mom got me a few tap dance lessons, like from Parks and Rec. It was like, but it, and so like then when my parents divorced, I got to take dance lessons. And it was profound for me, and it was like, I'm home. And I knew that I wanted to perform and I wanted to act and sing and dance, and I didn't really know any which direction. Like, all of them I liked equally, so I was open to it all. So when I got into my college years, it was always just the whole idea idea of performing was just always difficult. And a lot of my clients and a lot of people that I talk to, the biggest contributing factor and the hindrance to their success is a lack of support from family. And not because the family's like, I don't want you to follow your dreams, but just because the family doesn't really have any context for what it looks like to be successful in the entertainment industry. Right. They understand how to go to college and get the degree and get the job and do the 9-to-5 thing. And that's not necessarily wrong, but that's their context. And so it's scary for a lot of families to have this like artsy child that wants to go out and perform and they're like, but I don't want my kid to be broke. Mm-hmm. And so we internalize a lot of that, whether it's overt or covert. We internalize a lot of that as kids, and I see it in my clients all the time where they're, there's a lot of self-limiting behavior and beliefs happening just simply because of the environment that they were brought in, for better or for worse.
Right.
And that was definitely my experience. My parents were like, we just want you to get a degree and like get a job. Like we don't, they didn't have any big fantastical dreams for me the way I did for myself.
Right.
And that's also really hard for those of us that are big dreamers. Yeah. We don't have people in our circle that dream as big as we do. To dream for yourself is a task, man.
It is, and
it's a massive task.
For many people, dreams don't feel safe.
Yeah.
But really, if you think about it, it's a gift to yourself, so it really is very safe. Mm-hmm. It's very loving. It's it's a beautiful thing to dream. But yeah, I mean, I'm a parent. We're parents now. I get that. You don't want your kids to be broke, and you don't want to feel like they might be unsafe.
Right. Yeah.
But I'm sure we're both, as much as we love our parents, we're parenting in some different ways.
Totally.
And that's
totally
good.
Yeah.
Just be authentic, show up.
Yeah.
So, more please.
And so,
more please.
So I, like I said, when I got to college, I was very much going, okay, well, if I get a degree in music or if I get a degree in dance or something like that, like I'll just have to teach. And I didn't want to teach. Which is weird because that's a lot of what I do now is teach.
I was just thinking that.
I know, isn't that funny?
Yeah.
And educate, but in my mind I saw, I'm a dance teacher or I'm a vocal teacher or whatever. And neither of those things felt in alignment for me, and so I couldn't quite wrap my head around how to navigate that space. And I did 2 years of school, and then I switched my major to music, and I loved it. And I was like, wow, I was even enjoying theory, and I was like all into it. And I had been doing some acting. I convinced my mom to help me get an agent when I was about 13. So I'd been doing some commercials and stuff, and I had some experience working in Hollywood and doing some modeling and all kinds of things like that at home in LA. And was still wanting to pursue more of that. And so at the end of my third year, I got a job on a film, and through a very weird series of events, ended up being hired back to work on the film like a year later when they went back into production to shoot some extra stuff. And I got to work behind the scenes that time. So I was hired to assist the producers. And it was really fascinating, and I really loved it. And so that was kind of when my wheels on the business side started to turn, and I realized, okay, it was like my left brain side, business side kind of came online. And I really, really loved it. And I decided after my third year of college that I was going to go to the commercial voice program at MI in LA. Mm-hmm. And there was about a 6-month period of time that I was waiting for the semester to start. And I got so exhausted living in LA, and I was living in Hollywood at the time.
As many people do.
Yeah. And I was super, super young. And so I was like, I'm getting out of here. And it was just like, it wasn't even LA. It was just like Baby Bird. It was time for Baby Bird to fly the nest. And so I picked Nashville because I didn't want to go to New York. It was further away. It was cold. Didn't want to do cold.
Okay, fair.
And Nashville felt like a good soft landing place. I could still work in the entertainment industry and do what I loved, and I wasn't in LA or New York. And so I ended up being able, I got hired to work for CMT because I'd had production experience. So I got to work on their awards shows 4 years in a row, and I've had a lot of really cool, I've worn a ton of different hats in this industry. I've done management, I've worked in radio for Sony, on and on. Mm-hmm. I've videoed concerts for huge A-list artists as a second shooter for my husband. It's been an amazing journey because I could have never predicted that the economy was going to shift the way that it did, and the technological revolution was going to do what it did for artists. And so when I came, I was also, from a more personal standpoint, I was very much wanting to be in a relationship. And so I met my husband like 6 months after I moved to Nashville. Wow. 2 months after that we were engaged. 10 months after that we were married. So like I was not moving slow. And he and I joke all the time. We've been married now 14 years. We joke all the time. We're like, yeah, we would go back and totally do that over if we could, because we went way too fast, but we're still together. And so, you know, it is what it is. But crazy nonetheless. And I always knew, obviously, that I wanted to have kids. So, like, for a 22-year-old newly married woman, like, I don't know if y'all feel this. I'm sure there's at least some women that do, because I know I'm not the only one. But, like, once you get married, there's something biologically that you're like, let's have kids. It's like the ovary monster coming out to play. It took me a couple years to get there, but I was like, by 24, I was like, I've got to have kids, man.
Yeah.
And like, you know, again, hindsight is not always 20/20, but
or at the very least you start thinking about your fertility.
Yes.
Even if you're like not mentally and emotionally in the place that you were,
yes.
always knowing you wanted kids, there's something about being a woman in her 20s that you suddenly are just like really concerned about knowing about your fertility. Like, how am I? How's things with the eggs? How's it all going? How's things down yonder? Are things going all right? You know, because there is a pressure. There is a pressure. You could put it on yourself, but let's be honest, there's also still a societal pressure.
Absolutely.
Around, you're a woman. You're here to make babies.
Right.
Please.
That is your number one job.
Which, of course, I'm not saying it is, ladies. It's not.
No.
Your job is to listen to yourself and do what's right for you. Follow your own guidance.
Absolutely.
But back to you, love.
Yeah, so I was in this interesting juxtaposition of like being a new wife and wanting to have children, and also, you know, it was like the 06 to 09 era where the industry was going through huge upheaval. The record labels were losing huge cash because that's when the technological revolution was really kicking the music industry in the ass hard.
Right.
And they were just
negating
their heads,
a lot of stuff that had always been the model. Just completely negating stuff that was always the way.
Yep, and they were trying to figure out what to do. And it was really hard to navigate. How do I build a career as an artist in this environment? Because by the time I moved to Nashville, I was pretty set that like I wanted to focus on doing music rather than like acting. Even though I was still doing some acting and some dancing, like music was really the focus. And my husband's an amazing music producer, and so it was like, well, this makes sense. We'll do this together kind of thing. But it wasn't clear cut. And so the easiest thing, of course, once you're married and you feel the economic pressure to like provide because you're married now and you want to do the things, it was just easier to get a job. Yeah. And I was lucky enough to, through, you know, kind of some like roundabout ways, land a job at a music magazine here in town. And it was a profound experience for me because it really allowed me to learn about the music industry in a way that a Belmont education couldn't have even paid for. You know what I mean? I was getting paid to learn like the music business.
Real life learning.
It was amazing.
Right.
And so I was able to not only learn, and I was also hired to do a lot of marketing consulting specifically for independent artists. So it's kind of come full circle that I'm still in that line of work because that's where it really hatched. And so this particular company, they also had several other titles that were still in print, but also had a digital magazine component as well. And so I was getting this inside view of what was possible in the digital space when people were able to build large audiences around a common theme.
Okay.
And I thought, and seeing how they monetize them, I guess I should add that. And I'm like, why aren't artists doing this? Why aren't record labels doing this? It seems so easy because now we have social media. The artist has a one-to-one connection with their fan, which is the way that it always has been up until the Industrial Revolution, and we just turned music into a product.
Right.
It was always just a relationship from the artist to the listener. It was so intimate, you know? And so that was really where I started to formulate my ideas around what was possible for artists. And so for me to like tie a pretty bow on it, really where that led me was, even though I did some stints at labels and management companies and had some other gigs, I ended up, by the time I was 27, I became a mom, and then very quickly had another one. So by the time I was 30, I had 2 babies, which was totally the jam for me. Like, I wanted to have kids in my 20s. I still want to have like 3 more because I'm insane. But see,
truly are.
But goes to show like how different, right?
Yeah,
like you're like, I'm good with the one.
Yeah, one and done.
Yeah. And there's no right way, right?
Exactly.
But again, the big bow ultimately was that for me, I was looking at this opportunity not just for myself, but also seeing how taken advantage of that artists were really. I said that really funky. How easily taken advantage of artists were when they were trying to pursue a career in the traditional music industry. And I was seeing this new way, and I love to help, and I love to educate, and I'm also a revolutionary, man. I'm like, dude, if I see something is exploitative in nature, I'm like, let's burn it to the ground, And so especially as a woman, and seeing how much more, I mean, it's true for men and women equally that they're exploited as artists in that paradigm and in that traditional model.
Sure.
But for women, it's like on another level.
Agreed.
On another level.
I don't think anyone would disagree with you.
Right? So I just had this huge heart, like, because I was that woman. I'm like, this is me. I am trying to figure out how to build a career that I can support myself, that doesn't require me getting a piece of paper or some contract to validate my ability to do what I love. And so my path over the last 10 years has been, again, for myself and for other female artists and male artists, but primarily female artists, is just really helping them understand that, like, I hate to use the phrase "you can do it all" because it's not necessarily true in every season. Like, you can have it all, but there are seasons.
Absolutely.
And yet we have a profound opportunity with the technological revolution in the digital space to create really, really great income for ourselves in a way that allows us to, if we want to have kids, do that, and not feel like we can't do it until a certain thing happens or whatever. Or if we don't want to have kids, that's fine too, but we can have a dog and we can have a house and we can live our lives. I've got a client she's in Tacoma, and she was like, in 10 years from now, I want to have a house where each room is painted a different color.
Love it.
And I can wear sparkly, jumpsuits every day. And she's like, maybe I want to have kids, maybe I don't. Like, sounds a lot like your story. But that's what she wants. Like, why not be able to support a woman having the ability to create a business that she owns, that she controls financially, creatively, and can create the life that she wants. So going back to even like what this card is so profoundly about,
the
which
lightning
I love,
bolt. We pulled
the
this
lightning
from
bolt.
a deck.
It's like, man, that was it. That was, for me, that was it. When I started to synthesize all the information that I had learned and realize there is now a really amazing way to create a business for female artists, or any entrepreneur really, that allows you to do the mom thing if you want to, and still be present for your kids, and not be broke.
Yeah, I'm thinking back to, I don't know if you would agree that this is a great movie or a cheesy movie. I don't know that I know for sure where I stand on this, but it's a
good example nonetheless.
It's a movie called Hope Floats.
Yeah,
with Sandra Bullock and Harry Connick Jr.
Yeah.
There's a line in that, and I believe I can't remember the wonderful actress that played her mother, but says to her, baby, you can have roots and wings. I'm doing a little southern there because it was southern. Because it took place in Texas. And that's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Rooting down into your family life, if that's what, you so desire, or rooting into your own life with your pets, or with just your partner, or just with you being a solo traveler, maybe, whatever your jam is, whatever just makes you you and makes you feel really like that sense of home, whatever that sense of home is for you.
Yeah.
But
that's
also,
a good way to put it.
Also having wings.
And feeling the liberation and the expansiveness that is actually available to you now, because we have a one-to-one connection. There's no middleman anymore. So we do have the freedom to create and build whatever we want. It's just a matter of
freedom in that. You said it. I was thinking it, and you said it. And I really love that, especially for me. I consider myself to be quite a dinosaur with all the technological stuff. She's helping me. She's helping me. But that idea of freedom is such a great way to look at it, especially if you have kind of like this feeling of angst or bad association with tech, right? With the digital landscape. You know, all the possibilities, if they seem overwhelming or you just seem like, oh, that's not for me. Like if there's resistance, then maybe you are hearing how, from beautiful Lindsey here, how there's actually freedom. You could like shift that.
And it doesn't have to be overwhelming. That's the thing. Like even I mean, I teach this stuff and I don't love using all of it. Right. You know, I really don't. I mean, there's times where I'm just like, I do not want to get on Instagram. Right. Like no, thank you.
But just like anything, if we shift it to look at anything where there's any resistance, if we look at it and we shift it and we look for possibility and opportunity, and solution. Yeah. If we look for those things, then anything can kind of be kind of shifted and looked at in a new light.
And this is why I wanted to do this with Leslie, because we talk about all this stuff and then she says these like amazing truth bombs. And I'm like, you're so fucking sage. Like, will you just do a YouTube show with me?
I don't know. Okay, I'll take it. You know what? I was about to go, oh no. But no, I'll take it.
No, take it.
I'm going to be 50 in November, so you're still the beautiful maiden, and I'm working towards my crone years.
I don't know why they say archetypes. What's a crone? Because it makes me sound like Crohn's disease.
Like a wise, witchy old woman kind of thing. Where the wisdom...
makes me think of intestinal distress.
Okay, yeah. That's not...
Why not crown years? Can we call them crown years?
Yeah,
I like that better.
Yes.
Yes, because I feel like you've earned it, right?
Sitting in my throne.
Exactly.
No, so I really want to accept that. I want to accept that compliment. Thank you.
Please do.
My son calls them wisdom bombs, and he's been actually saying, that's so funny that you said that, because that's been something he said multiple times this week for the first time ever.
Well, you're really good at synthesizing information and then like putting this really like juicy spiritual point on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Speaking of the point,
yes.
How are we going to wrap this episode?
Why don't you tell us where we're hanging today?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're here in Nashville, Tennessee, in the Donaldson area, and this gorgeous tea room is a part of a beautiful shop called Still House Herbals Apothecary. And it's across the street from a really fabulous restaurant, just by the way, Nectar Urban Cantina, which has smoothies and coffees and a great bar, and parents out there, a full-on fenced-in, like, backyard kind of beer garden kind of place where the kids can run wild. And dogs on leashes, A-okay. Really good, healthy food. But anyway, this beautiful tea room is a part of just a beautiful boutique business where herbal supplements and healing things of all sorts, lots of holistic wellness going on here, and wellness services, and beautiful gift items. It's a gem. It's only been open for, I don't think she's reached a year yet. No, she hasn't. So it's in its first year, and it's just beautiful, and we're happy to be here, and we're drinking some of her herbal coffee that she blends here, and some of the pottery that she carries here. She has lots of teas that she blends and lots of yummy goodies.
And these coffee cups are made by Brooke Gillen, who's a local artisan here in Nashville, and she does amazing pottery work.
Beautiful work.
So yeah, if you're in town, you should come check it out.
You should. I got all crystalled up today, for the occasion. I exfoliated for you too, Lindsey.
Ooh.
Just wanted to let you know that.
That's very kind. I didn't exfoliate, but I did shower.
When you have kids, shower doesn't always happen.
True.
So, when you get a shower, it's a good day. And with that, we will leave you how about a cup of roots and wings?
Yeah.
All right. And there's some roots in this. Oh, that's so perfect because we're drinking a lot of roots right now.
That's true.
Like chicory root and doodah.
So you can do it because I did the last one, I think. I said a cup of badassery.
Wishing you a cup of roots and wings.
Cheers.
Cheers.